I received my divorce papers by email while I was still in the desert. 13 years of marriage ended inside a PDF file attached to a message that felt colder than a night air outside our tent. My name is Nathan. I was 42 years old then, a staff sergeant with the 82nd Airborne. I had been in Kandahar for 4 months when my wife, Becky, decided she was finished waiting for me. The email subject line said, "Let's be adults about this." No greeting, no real explanation. Just a short message that landed like a hammer. The body of the email was only a few sentences. She wrote that she had already filed for divorce. She wrote that she had already emptied our joint bank account. And she wrote that she had already moved her new boyfriend, Jeremy, into our house back in Spokane. I read the email twice. Then I closed my laptop like I was shutting a door in my mind. I did not slam it. I did not curse. I did not throw anything. I simply stood up, walked to the shower area, and washed the dust off my skin in a communal stall while other soldiers talked about normal things. Work schedules. Sports back home. A new care package. I nodded at people. I kept my face neutral. I went on my shift. I did my job. That was the strange part. My whole life was built around discipline. Around staying calm when things explode. Around putting emotion away until the mission is finished. So even when my marriage collapsed in a few lines of text, my body did what it was trained to do. I locked it down. When I got back to my bunk that night, I replied to Becky with one word. Understood. That was it. No questions. No argument. No begging. No threats. I sent it, set the laptop aside, and stared at the ceiling of the tent for a long time. My bunkmate, Wilson, noticed something was off. He was reading, not even looking at me, but he could tell by the way I moved. "You good, man?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just some stuff back home." He nodded and turned his page. That was the end of it. Military guys learn something fast. Some pain is private. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a friend is to not force him to talk before he is ready. The truth is, I was not shocked. Hurt, yes, but not surprised. Because 6 months before deployment, the air in our house had changed. Not with one big fight. Not with a dramatic confession. It was smaller than that. It was a slow drift that felt like walking through fog. At first I told myself I was imagining it. Then I stopped lying to myself. Becky stopped asking about my day. Not completely, but enough that it stood out. When I came home from training, she used to meet me at the door and ask what happened, what I learned, who I was with. Later, she would barely look up from her phone. She started working later at the dental office where she answered phones and handled scheduling. She said they were short-staffed. She said it was temporary, but temporary kept stretching. Then she began going to the gym 3 times a week. Except she did not come back sweaty, tired, or hungry the way she used to when we worked out together early in our marriage. She came back looking the same, almost too composed, like the gym was not the real destination. New clothes started showing up. New friends I never met. New stories about people I could not picture. And then, one day, she changed the password on her phone. I noticed. I did not mention it right away. People think soldiers are loud, aggressive, ready to fight. Some are. But me, I was raised by a father who believed in patience. He taught me to think before I speak and to be sure before I act. In the Army, that habit became sharper. You do not rush when your choices can hurt people. So I did not confront her. I did not start following her. I did not try to break into her phone. That was never who I was. But I was not blind either. Instead, I did something else. I prepared. Quietly. Carefully. Like I was planning a mission, not a marriage conversation. I secured important documents in a storage unit across town. My birth certificate. Our marriage license. The house deed. Military benefits paperwork. Anything I might need if things got ugly. I also moved things that mattered to me in a deeper way. My grandfather's watch. My mom's old silver set. Small family items that cannot be replaced with insurance money. I placed them in that unit too. Then I opened a separate bank account at a different bank. I started diverting a portion of my pay into it. Not enough to trigger questions. Not enough to make Becky suspicious. But enough that if she pulled the rug out, I would not be starting from nothing. I did not feel proud about doing that. I did not feel sneaky. I felt sad that I even had to think like this. But my gut kept whispering, something is coming. The night before I deployed, Becky hugged me at the airport and told me to stay safe. Her words sounded correct, but her eyes were dry. It felt like she was saying goodbye to a coworker leaving for a business trip, not a husband walking into war. I remember thinking, maybe she's just tired. Maybe she's holding it together. Maybe she will fall apart later. But deep down, I think a part of me already knew. What Becky did not know was that I was prepared for the worst. And she also did not understand something about me. I never start fights, but I do finish them. Not with fists. Not with shouting. With strategy. With patience. With a system that exists for a reason. I met Becky at a friend's barbecue in 2010. I was home between tours and staying with my buddy Jason in Spokane. Becky was finishing nursing school back then, but she ended up choosing a calmer path. She took an administrative job at a dental practice and told me she liked that it was less stress. She was bright and funny. She made me feel normal. When you spend time deployed, you get used to being on alert. Becky was like a warm room after months in cold rain. I fell fast. We married 8 months later. People warned us it was quick, but I thought, when you know, for a while it was good. Becky used to say she was proud of my service, even if she never fully understood it. There was no military in her family. Her dad was a bank manager. Her brother was a pharmacist. When they talked about careers, it was all clean lines and stable schedules. My life did not fit their picture. Becky would ask when I planned to get a real job. She did not mean it cruelly at first. It was like she truly believed the Army was something you do before adulthood. She did not understand that after 15 years, it was my profession. It was also the only place I ever felt like I fully belonged. In 2014, we bought our house. 3 bedrooms. Small yard. Quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. The mortgage was in my name because we used a VA loan. Later I added Becky to the deed because that seemed like the right thing to do. Married people share. Married people trust. A year after we got married, my dad died. Heart attack while shoveling snow. That kind of death is brutal because it is ordinary. One moment he was breathing. The next he was gone. 3 years later, my mom passed too. Lung cancer, even though she never smoked a day in her life. Life does not always reward good behavior. My parents left me some money. Not a fortune, but enough to erase our student loans and give us some savings. Becky and I talked about the future with that cushion behind us. We talked about kids, maybe. We talked about traveling. We talked about what life could look like when my Army time slowed down. But the Army never truly slows down. I deployed 4 times during our marriage. Iraq twice. Afghanistan twice. Each time I came home, Becky seemed a little more distant. A little more restless. Like she was forcing herself to play a role she no longer wanted. I tried to adjust. I tried to be more present when I was home. I tried to plan special weekends. I tried to listen. Still, the drift continued. In 2019, the cracks became easier to see. Becky started getting irritated when I called during her girls' nights. She began praising her friend Melissa, who had divorced her husband and was now living her best life, as Becky liked to say. She started commenting that Becky and I did not have much in common anymore. I suggested counseling. She said we were fine. Just a phase. Then the late nights at work started. The weekends away with friends I never met. The new clothes. The gym membership she rarely used in the way she claimed. The new phone passwords. 1,000 tiny signs that all pointed in one direction. I should have confronted her. Many people would have. But again, I'm not built like that. I watch first. I learn. I collect facts. And I prepare. 2 weeks after I received the divorce email, I was sitting in the mess hall when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from our bank app. A withdrawal. $88,500. Almost everything that was left. I set my fork down and opened the app. The joint account balance was down to $22.37. Our savings account, $47,000 we had built over years, was gone completely. Transferred out to an account number I did not recognize. My hand stayed steady, but my stomach felt hollow. Murphy, one of the guys from my unit, glanced over. Bad news, he asked. I locked my phone and forced my voice to stay casual. Nah, just some account stuff. That night, I called our bank from the base phone center. The employee on the line sounded nervous once she realized I was overseas and the withdrawals were happening back home. She told me Becky had been moving money for weeks. Small amounts at first, then larger. The biggest transfers started the day after I deployed. I thanked her, ended the call, and stood in the hallway for a long time. Guys walked past laughing and talking about their kids, their wives, their plans. Normal life was happening around me while mine burned. Wilson found me there. Alvarez said you looked like you saw a ghost at dinner, he said. What's going on? I do not usually share personal things, but Wilson had pulled me out of a bad situation in Kandahar once. I trusted him. Some bonds form fast when your life depends on another person. So I told him the truth, plain and short. My wife emptied our accounts and moved her boyfriend into our house. Sent divorce papers while I was still on patrol. Wilson did not give me the usual sympathy lines. He did not say sorry. He did not say you will find someone better. He asked one question. What's your plan? I stared at him for a second, because that question hit the real problem. Emotion is one thing. Action is another. Not sure yet, I said. He nodded slowly. Let me know if you need anything. That night, I cannot sleep. My mind kept replaying the email, the bank numbers, the feeling of being far away and powerless. Then I remembered something. The home security system. I logged into it remotely on my laptop. Becky probably forgot I still had access. The cameras loaded, grainy but clear enough. There was a strange truck in our driveway. A man I had never seen before walked our dog like he owned the place. He used my coffee mug. He wore my Seahawks sweatshirt. And there was Becky, laughing in the kitchen. I had renovated myself during my last leave. Something changed inside me while I watched that footage. Not rage. Not tears. Something colder. Something clean and focused. I closed the laptop. I pulled out my phone. I started writing a list. Called James, my old Army buddy who became a lawyer. Check the VA loan terms. Contact my master sergeant about emergency leave. Review the home refinance documents Becky mentioned casually last year. Secure my military pension accounts. I did not feel sad anymore. I did not even feel angry the way people expect. I felt like I was planning an operation. There's a moment in combat when fear fades and training takes over. This was like that. At 0500 before my shift, I emailed James. The subject line was simple. Need legal help. Discreet and urgent. His reply came fast. Call me secure line only. When I hung up on that call later, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I did not need to yell. I did not need to threaten. I did not need to confront Becky. I needed to let the truth do the work. 2 months later, I was back on American soil. I did not tell Becky I was coming home. I did not call. I did not text. I checked into a motel in downtown Spokane under a different name, the way James advised. We met at a diner 10 miles outside town, away from places Becky might recognize. James looked at me and said I looked like hell. Feel like it too, I replied. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of the house deed, loan documents, and bank statements. Then he pulled out one extra sheet. Found something interesting while digging, he said. It was a refinance application. My signature was on it. Except it was not really my signature. Whoever wrote it tried to copy my style, but the details were wrong. The middle initial was wrong. The stroke pattern was off. It was close enough to fool someone who was not looking carefully, but not close enough to fool me. Becky did this, I said. My voice was flat, but my jaw tightened. James nodded. 3 months ago, she tried to use the equity to pull out $330,000. Your signature is required since the VA loan is in your name. Someone forged it. I exhaled slowly. So she forged my signature, drained our accounts, and tried to take a loan against our house while I was overseas. Busy woman, James said, but his eyes were serious. It gets worse. She listed her boyfriend as a co-applicant, Jeremy Ryan, and he has a record, 2 DUIs and a fraud charge from 2019. A heavy pressure settled behind my ribs. What are my options, I asked. Several, James said, but first decide what you want. I thought about it. Not just the betrayal, but the months of quiet preparation. The way she sent the divorce like it was a bill. The way she took money meant for a future. The way a stranger wore my clothes in my home. I want what's legally mine, I said, and I want her to understand consequences. James nodded once. Then we moved carefully. The next day, I drove past her house. I did not stop. I did not knock. I did not confront her. I parked down the street and watched for a while. Part of me wanted to storm in, to demand answers, to see her face. But that would be emotion talking. Emotion makes you sloppy. And sloppy is how people lose cases. Instead, I drove straight to the bank and asked to meet the loan officer who handled the refinance paperwork. I showed my military ID. I showed the signature on my driver's license. I showed the forged document. The man behind the desk went pale. I have to report this, he said. I nodded. I understand. I've already filed a police report. That night, I received a text from Becky. Who have you been talking to at the bank? Jeremy said someone was asking questions. I did not answer. The next day, I went to the county clerk's office. I filed paperwork contesting the refinance due to fraud. I registered a formal notice that no changes could be made to the property without my presence and verification. 2 days later, Becky called. I let go to voicemail. Nathan, we need to talk. The bank called about the house. What are you doing? If this is about the divorce, we can discuss it like adults. Like adults. The same phrase she used in the divorce email. Hearing it again felt like stepping on broken glass. I still did not respond. That afternoon, James called me with new information. The refinance funds are frozen, he said. But there's more. Your wife's boyfriend has been driving your truck, right? The one in your name. Yeah, I said. He got pulled over this morning, driving on a suspended license. They impounded the vehicle. Good, I said before I could stop myself. James hesitated. Also, there were some interesting items in the truck. Prescription pads from the dental office where Becky works. I sat very still. They were not blank, James added. Police are investigating. I closed my eyes. The situation was expanding beyond a divorce into something darker. A small part of me wanted to warn Becky. Old habits. Old loyalty. But then I pictured the security footage of her laughing in my kitchen while another man held my mug, wearing my sweatshirt. No, I was done protecting her from consequences she chose. The next morning, I met the bank's fraud investigator. His name was Thompson. He was short, tired-looking, and his tie had a coffee stain like he stopped caring years ago. This happens more than you think, he told me, laying documents across his desk. Spouse deploys. Other spouse sees an opportunity. What happens now, I asked. We froze the funds from the fraudulent refinance, but there is a problem. Some money is already gone. How much, I asked. About half. $14,600. My body went tense. Where did it go? Thompson hesitated. He said he was not supposed to share, but then he looked at my face and the evidence and sighed. He turned his screen toward me. Transfers to someone named Daniel Spencer. Not Jeremy. Someone else. I leaned closer. Who is Daniel Spencer? Thompson shrugged. Not my department. Your lawyer can subpoena records. I left the bank and called James immediately. Daniel Spencer, he repeated. Let me run a check. An hour later he called back. Daniel Spencer is a real estate agent, James said. Quick sales. Cash deals. My stomach dropped. She was planning to sell the house, I said. Looks that way. Those deposits were probably earnest money. And here is the interesting part. Spencer has done business with Jeremy Ryan before. I sat down on a bench in a small park, trying to breathe evenly. So this was not just Becky leaving me, I said. This was planned. Maybe, James said carefully. I did some digging into Jeremy Ryan. He has a pattern. Gets involved with women whose husbands are deployed or distracted. In multiple cases, the home gets sold under market value to one of Spencer's clients. Ryan gets a cut, then he disappears. And Becky, I asked. Hard to say. She may be a victim too, or she may be in on it. I rubbed my face with both hands. It almost hurt to think about how deep the betrayal could go. Because betrayal hurts in layers. First you lose trust. Then you lose your memories. You start asking if any of it was real. What do we do, I asked. I contacted the FBI Financial Crimes Division. James said. VA loans and military deployments make them interested. This crosses lines. That night, alone in my motel room, I sat with a beer and stared at the wall. I wondered if Becky had been lying for months or years. I wondered if she believed Jeremy when he fed her stories. I wondered if she even cared. My phone buzzed again. Becky, Nathan, please call me. The bank is saying fraud. Jeremy got arrested for driving your truck. I don't understand what's happening. I stared at the message a long time. Then I typed a question. Who is Daniel Spencer? I watched the typing dots appear, then stop, then appear again. Finally, she responded. I don't know what you're talking about. I wrote back. 14,600. Transfers. House listing. No response. 10 minutes passed. Then she sent another message. It's not what you think. I turned off my phone and lay down. The next morning, James called. The FBI wants to meet. They have been investigating Ryan and Spencer for months. You're not the first, but your case might be the one that breaks it open. For the first time since the divorce email, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not because my marriage died, not because Becky suffered, but because the truth was finally moving forward like a machine that finally catches. I met with FBI agents at their field office in Spokane. Agent Patel and Agent Donovan. They recorded my statement. They took copies of bank records, the forged refinance papers, and a timeline James and I put together. Your case helps establish a pattern, Agent Patel explained. It shows intent and organization, not isolated incidents. What about Becky? I asked. My wife. My soon-to-be ex-wife. The agents exchanged a look. We are still determining her involvement, Agent Donovan said carefully. Did she ever talk about money pressure? Selling the house? Downsizing? I thought back. Becky had started saying we were house poor. She said we should downsize. I had not agreed because the mortgage was manageable on my salary and benefits. I thought she was just restless, looking for change. When did that start? Patel asked. About 6 months ago, I said. Around the time, she must have met Jeremy. Donovan made notes. Did she ever discuss refinancing with you? No, I said. Not seriously. She mentioned it once like a casual idea. Then she did it behind my back. When a meeting ended, Patel handed me her card. We will be in touch. In the meantime, do not confront your wife or Ryan. We need to build this carefully. I nodded. Understood. That evening I drove past our neighborhood again. I parked down the street from our house. Jeremy's truck was back. Maybe recovered from the impound situation. Becky's car was gone. My phone buzzed. Text for Becky. We need to talk in person. Meet me at Riverfront Park tomorrow. I showed the text to James the next day over breakfast. Do not go, he said. Nothing good comes from that right now. I said. But I want to know what she is doing while she thinks of meeting her. We drove to the house around 9:30 a.m. and parked across the street. At 9:45, Becky came out, got into her car, and drove away in the direction of Riverfront Park. Now what? James asked. Now we wait, I said. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up with a real estate logo on the door. Daniel Spencer. Jeremy came out to greet him. They spoke in the driveway, then went inside. James glanced at me. Should we follow? No, I said. No need. I installed security cameras last year. Interior and exterior. Cloud storage. James looked at me with a small smile. You did not mention that. It never came up, I said. I opened the security app on my phone and angled the screen so James could see. Spencer and Jeremy moved through the living room. Spencer took photos. Jeremy pointed at features like he owned them. I turned up the volume. Spencer was talking. Calm. Confident. We list by the end of the week, he said. How about a buyer already? Cash offer as usual. How much? Jeremy asked. $420 if we list at $470. They offer $420. Everybody is happy. What about the husband? Jeremy asked. Becky says he's causing trouble. Spencer waved his hand like it was nothing. Military guys are all the same. They make noise, but they've got deployments and responsibilities. He will take a settlement to make it go away. I looked at James. You getting this? He was already recording the feed. I forwarded access to Agent Patel with a short message. Happening now. About 30 minutes later, the street filled with vehicles. FBI, local police. People stepped out fast and coordinated. I watched from down the street as agents entered my house and brought Spencer and Jeremy out in handcuffs. My heart stayed oddly steady. Not happy, not sad, just steady, like watching a trap close. My phone rang. Agent Patel. We got them on tape, she said. They discussed the fraud scheme. We have conspiracy, wire fraud, and attempted sale under false pretenses. We will need a formal statement from you. Of course, I said. And Mr. Briggs, she added, your wife just arrived. She is distressed. I looked over. Becky was standing on the lawn with her hands over her mouth. She watched agents carry boxes of documents from the house. She looked like someone waking up inside a nightmare. What happened to her? I asked. That depends, Patel said. On what she knew and on what you want. I stared at Becky. 13 years. The good years at the start. The slow rot. The final email in the desert. The empty accounts. I don't want revenge, I said slowly. I want what is right. Patel said she understood. The federal case moved fast after that. Jeremy and Spencer both took plea deals. Each tried to save himself by telling on the other. Investigators uncovered a scheme spread across 3 states. Military families were targeted because deployment creates distance, distraction, and trust. VA loans were targeted because of the paperwork and the value in the homes. Becky insisted she knew nothing about the larger operation. She claimed Jeremy convinced her that I was hiding money, that I planned to leave her with nothing. She claimed the refinance was his idea, and she just went along. Maybe that was true. Maybe it was not. But one fact stayed solid. She forged my signature. She emptied our accounts. She moved another man into our home while I was overseas. In the end, she agreed to a settlement. Full restitution of the stolen funds. She gave up any claim to the house. She gave up any claim to my military pension. She signed a confession about the forgery. In return, I did not push for maximum punishment for her. The divorce became a clean break. No long courtroom war. No endless hearings. I was tired. I wanted my life back, not more years tied to her. 6 months after that email in Kandahar, the divorce was finalized. On the day the last paperwork was signed, Agent Patel called me. Jeremy Ryan was sentenced today, she said. 8 years for fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. Daniel Spencer got 12. I let the numbers sink in. Thank you for telling me, I said. There is one more thing, Patel added. We found evidence they did this to 11 other military families. Your case helped us prove the pattern. Those families may get their money back because of you. After we hung up, I sat alone and thought about those other families. Other husbands deployed, believing their homes were safe. Other wives being manipulated or choosing betrayal. Other children caught in the blast. I did not plan to become the case that cracked it open. I only wanted my own life protected. But sometimes the right action for yourself becomes the right action for strangers too. Later that night, my phone buzzed with another message from Becky. I never meant for things to end this way. I did not answer. There was nothing left to say. A year later, I sold the house. I could not stand to live in it. Every wall held a memory. Every corner held an image of what she did. The place felt contaminated, like trust had seeped into the drywall and turned sour. With the money, I bought a small cabin outside Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms, 10 acres, a creek running behind it. No neighbors for miles. Quiet so deep you can hear your own thoughts, whether you want to or not. I took early retirement from the Army. 20 years was enough. I had given enough. I still loved the brotherhood. I still respected the mission. But I was ready to build a different kind of life, one that did not require me to leave home for months while hoping the person waiting for me would stay true. I got a dog, a German Shepherd, and named him Scout. He followed me everywhere, like he believed his job was to make sure I never got blindsided again. I started doing carpentry work for locals. Nothing fancy. Fixing fences, building porches, repairing barns. Work that keeps your hands busy and your mind quiet. The pension covered the bills, and the carpentry gave my days shape. Sometimes I thought about Becky. Not with love, not with rage, just with a distant curiosity, like thinking about a road you used to drive before the bridge collapsed. James heard she moved back to her hometown in Oregon. Another dental office. Starting over. Maybe she told people a story where she was the victim. Maybe she told the truth. I did not care anymore. People can rewrite their own history, but the paperwork does not lie. One evening, a letter arrived from a woman in Fort Worth. She wrote that her husband was Navy and deployed when Jeremy and Spencer tried to pull the same scheme on her. The FBI gave her my name as part of the case record. You don't know me, her letter said, but you saved our home. Thank you. You fought back when it would have been easier to walk away. I read it twice and pinned it to my refrigerator. Some days, when the silence in the cabin got too loud, I would look at that letter and remember that something good came out of the wreckage. Not because I wanted to be a hero, but because it proved that standing firm mattered. Last I heard, Jeremy was still in prison. Spencer too. And me, I was learning how to live again. Slowly, quietly, one ordinary day at a time. I used to think the worst part of betrayal was losing someone you loved. Now I think the worst part is realizing how much of your life you gave to someone who saw it as an opportunity. But here's the thing I learned. You can lose a marriage, money, and a home, and still keep your backbone. You can still keep your discipline. You can still choose not to become bitter. Becky tried to take everything at once from thousands of miles away while I stood under desert skies doing my job. She did not understand that distance does not make a man weak. Sometimes it makes him sharper. I never started a fight, but I finished it. Not with shouting, not with violence, with facts, patience, and the law. And when it was over, I built something new, something real, something that could not be emptied with a bank transfer or erased with an email. Just land, quiet, a loyal dog, and a life that finally belonged to me again.